Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. This is Krishna Dasa. Happy to see you all, and I hope you all had a wonderful Dasara. We just celebrated Vijay Dasami, so very happy to be with you all. Hare Krishna. So let's continue our journey towards achieving Vijaya over our own mind. Isn't that the ultimate Vijayam we all want, right? So that's what we are going to continue studying today. Very profound teachings in today's slokas as well. We're going to cover slokas 2.39 to 2.44. Before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshuro Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
Hare Krishna. So I will play the slokas. Again, it is 2.39 to 2.44. We have shared the slokas in the group, so you can try and follow through. Also, all these are in my website. So if you go to pragmaticgita.com, if you go to the menu, in the menu there is a sitemap. And if you click on the sitemap, it will show you everything. So you can pick and choose which chapter and which shloka you want to refer to. So that's a easy access that you always have. Okay, I'll start.
एषा ते विहिता सांख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्विमां शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते वहतो भयात् व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिरेकेह कुरु नन्दन बहुशाखा ह्यनन्ताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनाम् यामिमां पुष्पितां वाचं प्रवदन्त्यविपश्चितः वेदवादरताः पार्थ नान्यदस्तीति वादिनः कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्मफलप्रदाम् क्रियाविशेषबहुलां भोगैश्वर्यगतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्यप्रसक्तानां तयापहृतचेतसाम् व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः समाधौ न विधीयते.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So let us come back. We have all taken a short break. We all celebrated Navratri and Dandiya and a lot of fun. So let's come back to the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Let us remind ourselves where we left last time. So the entire battlefield is now silent because Arjuna has asked Krishna to take the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, in the middle of both the armies. And there is a weird kind of stillness all around. So this is a kind of stillness. In the West, they say the lull before the storm. So this was that kind of a stillness, where there is anticipation of something big that's going to happen. And there are millions of warriors. They're all standing, each one fighting their own fears, their own doubts, each one having their own questions. Why am I in this battlefield? What am I doing here? That's the scene. And amidst all this, there is this one radiant chariot driven by 5 super white, gracious, elegant horses. The animals are more perceptive than humans. So these horses could already sense that something very bad is happening or going to happen. So they are digging the mud with their hoofs, and they are snorting. And that's also creating a cloud of dust. So see, just visualize the sun's rays, golden rays coming down, army standing on both sides. This dust is coming, creating a cloud, reflecting the sun's rays. In the middle, you see this radiant Krishna standing, facing Arjuna with a very compassionate smile on his face. Arjuna is hardly visible because he's feeling very small now. He's sulking and he's taking a back seat. Arjuna was such a great warrior that he could shoot in the dark. And pratyancha, we call it pratyancha, like tying the bow, the string to the bow, and he could do that so quickly. And so that whole Gandiva used to be like a featherweight for him, and he could carry it so effortlessly. But now the same Gandiva is feeling like a huge burden to him, and it is lying down meekly, on his lap. Look at this scene. This is the scene. And I think that scene reflects the scene a lot of us face in our own lives. We feel like that Arjuna, we feel suddenly we become small. We feel confused. Have we lost the battle? Have we lost the ability to figure out what is the right thing to do? Like, are we good enough? So many questions come. Am I going to win this battle? Why am I even fighting the battle? Isn't it? So let us all turn towards that Krishna now, the same way Arjuna turned towards Krishna. So here, in 2.39, Shri Krishna says, O Partha, you have heard the eternal wisdom of Sankhya from me, which is the analytical knowledge that reveals your true nature. So now you understand that you are not this flesh, this body, these emotions. That's not you. You are the eternal witness. You are that unchanging consciousness. So when Krishna says, you now understand, Krishna is actually asking him, I hope you understand. Because I've told you so much about Sankhya, I hope you understand. So I hope all of us already understand that part already. If not, let us go and revise the whole thing. And then Krishna continues with compassion. He says, Partha, but that knowledge alone is not enough. He says, just knowledge is like a lamp without oil. What an analogy. He says, now I'm going to reveal to you Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of awakened intellect. It is Buddhi Yoga which will help transform the philosophy into living wisdom. It will transform theory into practice that will liberate you. Isn't that what we are all waiting for? Enough of Gyan, Guruji. What do I do in my life? I need action. Right? So that's where now Krishna is coming. So this is pretty much a turning point in the knowledge that Arjuna is getting. Again, we need to understand that it's not just Arjuna's problem. It is a universal problem. It's a universal crisis. Each of us is an Arjuna in this battle of life. That is why Bhagavad Gita is so important for all of us. Because it's a universal message. It's not a story. It's not about some warrior, some fairy tale, some god. This is our battle. These are our questions, our doubts. And he's our Krishna. That's why it is so unique. So now, from Krishna is, as we discussed earlier, he is as if smiling. There is so much chaos, there is so much fear, there is so much anxiety, but he's standing in the middle, he's smiling. Trikaladarshi, he could see everything, right? So he's smiling. And from that position of calmness, what does he provide Arjuna? He's not giving Arjuna any secret mantra or chadi booty or taviz, He is giving Arjuna a complete framework for how to live with purpose and how to achieve freedom while being in the life, while engaging with life. So if you look at Krishna's teachings, you can categorize them into 4 pillars. I'm talking about these teachings, 2.39 to 2.44. So what are those 4 pillars? We will not talk about those 4 pillars. Some acharyas have said very beautifully, they have said that this teaching, Samudra Manthan, you all heard about it? Where in ancient times they churned the ocean, and when they churned the ocean, they got out both poison as well as amrut. Both came out. And that amrut was amrut for immortality. So some acharyas have beautifully said that these slokas here, they are like that Samudra Manthan, where Shri Krishna is churning all the knowledge there is to bring you out the amrut. But this is the amrut of liberation. Instead of amrut of immortality, here he is giving us the amrut of liberation. Beautiful. First pillar, we spoke about 4 pillars. The first pillar is Buddhi Yoga, the divine architecture of action. So now Krishna, he's starting a shift in his teachings. The shift may seem subtle also, but it's also like a very profound shift. Because here he's making a very clear distinction between the knowledge that has been given and how to put that knowledge into action. That is the shift he is coming up with here. So he's saying, Esha te bihita sankye buddhir yoge tvimam shruno. I have explained to you the wisdom of Sankhya. Now listen with your whole being as I reveal Buddhi Yoga, which is the practical application of this truth. So it's a call to all of you. No sleeping, no yawning, no doing time pass. Focus, because if you focus, then in this 1 hour, you can gain that amrita of liberation. Isn't that not reward enough to dedicate this time and focus entirely here, and instead of whatever else you are doing on the side? So he's also providing a very breathtaking promise to this statement that he just made. He's saying, Buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Saying, when you work with this kind of awakened understanding, O Partha, you will gain liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from the chains of karma bandham, the bondage of action. Later on, we are going to, Krishna will go into details on karma yoga. He will talk about it beautifully, very scientifically. But basically, at a very high level, anything we do, any action we take, however small it may be, it has a consequence and it eventually creates bondage if we don't do it with the right mindset and with the right understanding. For now, let us accept it, and in the next chapter, we will start diving into the science of karma. But here, for the context of what he's saying here, he's saying, Arjuna, if you can just understand what I'm teaching, and if you can listen and if you can follow it, then you can totally get liberation from that karma bandham. Then your actions will not cause any... He's not saying then you will not have to do any action. He's saying then your actions will no longer cause the bondage. See, there is a very beautiful word Krishna is using here. Karma bandham prahasyasi. So the word prahasyasi is very unique, very beautiful, because it suggests something like gaining freedom, but not as a struggle. It's not like somebody who is, trying to break away from a prison. That's just like a full of struggle, that kind of a, I want to break free and I'm struggling to break free. This is more like a laughing your way to freedom. Something that seemed like a bondage is no longer a bondage. You just realize. So I'll give you a very simple example. So we have all been in school, at least in India, a lot of Indian schools, there will usually be a scary watchman, and during lunch break, he will always be menacing. He's like, hey, where are you going? And some kids will get scared and, But then you grow up, you become a graduate, you become a parent and whatever. And one fine day, they have a reunion in the school. You go to the school. Now you are chatting with your friends and you are saying, do you remember that watchman? How we used to feel scared? But now you are laughing about it. But when you were a child, that seemed very fearsome. That seemed, not pleasant. That seemed like a bondage. As if you are, being bound But the boundary is created by that watchman. But now you have outgrown it. Now you got more knowledge, more wisdom. The same watchman looks funny to you now, isn't it? That's what Krishna is saying. Prahasyasi is saying, once you understand what I'm teaching about Buddhi Yoga, you will gain freedom laughingly. Like one fine day, you will say, oh, I was doing things the wrong way. What I thought was bondage, it's actually not bondage. And I know now how to get free from it, you see. So it's a very pleasurable way of learning and getting liberation. See how compassionate our Krishna is. He's not just teaching us, he's also teaching us how to do it in a pleasant way. Can you get a better teacher than this? So the word buddhi, we need to understand a little better. It comes from the Sanskrit word buddha, which means to know, to awaken, or to perceive clearly. The buddhi is the highest faculty of discernment. So we said earlier, you have to have discernment, viveka. Some of you are nodding your heads and some of you are looking very blank. Viveka, vairagya, we spoke about all of that. We also spoke about making a choice between Shreya and Preya. So what part of us is actually making that choice, Shreya, Preya? That is Buddhi. So Buddhi is a higher faculty of discernment. So if you look at the hierarchy of our own system, inner system, you can look at the mind. Mind is also known as manas. That's like a turbulent water. No, it's not still. Why it's not still? Because it's constantly agitated. Agitated with what? By what? Fears, anxieties, desires, so many things. They keep disturbing the water. That's the manas. Whereas Buddhi is like a crystal clear mirror. It will show you things the way they are. But for that, we have to clean the mirror, we have to acknowledge the mirror, and we have to learn to look in the mirror. Instead of getting disturbed visions of what you see in the muddy water. Some acharyas have said that you look at the reflection of the moon in a muddy water which is turbulent, you will feel as if the moon is disturbed, isn't it? Because you're looking at the reflection and that water is turbulent, shaky, and the reflection is also shaking, and you may think that the moon, if you don't know that the moon is separate from the reflection, you will say that, look, the moon is shaking, isn't it? That is our view of our perception is flawed because of our manas, which is disturbed. That is why Krishna says samatvam is important. But only when the mind is calm, you will be able to perceive things the way they are. So in the Katha Upanishads, you have all seen the most popular picture used for any Bhagavad Gita is that chariot and 5 white horses and Krishna standing there holding the reins. So that whole thing is reflection of the shloka from Katha Upanishad. You can write it down, you can read it yourself later. It is Katha Upanishad 1.3.3. It's a small beautiful shloka. It says, Atmanam ratitam viddhi shariram ratamevatu buddhim tu saratim viddhi manah pragraha mevacha. Know the self as the master of the chariot, the body as the chariot itself. The buddhi is the charioteer and the mind is the reins. And you all know the horses are the senses. So the message, the key takeaway behind that picture in the context of what we are learning here is, if the charioteer is awake, the charioteer is focused, then doesn't matter even if the horses are wild. The charioteer will control the horses, guide the horses correctly, and your chariot will go where it needs to go. But if the charioteer is sleepy, he just had a party, late night party, he's sleepy, he's distracted, or his mind is dull, he's not thinking clearly, then what happens? The horse is not under his control. They start running wild where they want to go, not where you want to go. And you are never going to reach your goal, any goal. You are invariably going to land up in some disaster, isn't it? That's the message. So that charioteer is the buddhi. And that is why here Krishna is giving so much importance to Buddhi Yoga, because the Buddhi can make sure that we take our chariot where it needs to go. So here the charioteer is Krishna himself. What better charioteer can anybody get? A very important lesson for all of us. Of course, chariots don't make sense in today's world. So let us just say a vehicle, a nice luxury car. you know. But what happens if you have a Ferrari? Do you know that most accidents actually happen with powerful cars? The smaller cars have lesser accidents. Because when the engine is very powerful, if you don't know how to handle it, you invariably go and have a crash. That's what happens. But a very important lesson for all of us is we are all driving the cars in reverse gear. Why reverse gear? Look at our lives, introspect. How do we drive our own lives? How do we drive ourselves? Almost all the time we are chasing something, frantically chasing. We are chasing results. We are getting entangled. We are chasing success. We are chasing pleasures. And then we try to calm our mind. We try to say, oh, why am I anxious? Isn't it? Somebody says, say this mantra, your anxiousness will go away. Somebody says, I'll give you some kind of taweez. You wear it around your neck. You wear 1,000 rudrakshas all around your body. Your anxiety will go away. But see, the problem is that is driving the car in the reverse gear. That's ulta. Why ulta? Because Krishna tells us what is the right way to drive. He says, you have to invert the whole process. He says, first start with a calm mind. Samatvam. Don't say that once I get the new car, I will feel calm. You will never feel calm that way. So Krishna says, start first with a calm mind. Then look to your buddhi and ask it to guide you in a clear, concise way. And then act from a position of calmness and clarity. So instead of saying, I will be peaceful when I get something, Krishna says, first be peaceful and then you will know what to get, how to get. So he's saying, now please shift your gear. Instead of reverse gear, I'll show you how to use the right gear and move forward. So important, isn't it? So a simple technique, a simple tip here. In our own lives, before we make any major decision, before we make any big action, we should have a short pause. And we should look, introspect. Usually, this is true for absolute majority of humanity. No matter what we do, no matter how big or how small it is, the first question internally that comes is, Faida kya hai? What am I going to get? What is the benefit? Knowingly or unknowingly, we don't do anything until there is something to gain. Isn't it? So Krishna will say, replace that question. Replace that question. So you pause. In that pause, use that pause. When Krishna says, choose Shreya versus Preya, when do you choose Shreya versus Preya? It is in that pause. If you act without thinking, then where is there time and space to make a decision? You already acted. So when do you do that Shreya versus Preya? It is in that pause. You feel like, throwing a stone at somebody, pause. Pause. You feel like giving an expensive gift to an important person, pause. Pause. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is it because I think I want to get something? Replace that question. Instead of what can I get, ask, what can I contribute? What is the rightful action here? Krishna says, if you can do even that, automatically a lot of your actions will be aligned the right way. This is pretty much Buddhi Yoga. This is simplified Buddhi Yoga. So let that be the starting point for Buddhi Yoga. That is the first principle. The first principle is practice the pause. When you practice the pause, your choices will get more clear. You will have more clarity. And instead of chasing outcomes, you will start figuring out what is the right thing to do. Somebody asked me, like I think Apurvaji asked earlier, how do I know what is the right thing to do? Purvaji asked. This is how you will find it out. First have the pause, practice the pause. The more you practice the pause, the more you get into a mindset of samatvam. Your inner guru will tell you what is the right thing to do. Automatically, the Shreya versus Preya will happen. But give yourself some time there. So pause, choose the right action, do it well. Can it get any simpler? This is the gist of Buddhi Yoga, as condensed as it can be. So let us do a quick reflection point. If you have your journals, you can just write down a few questions and think of any decision. This is for your own practice, okay? Right now, think of any decision you're trying to make, or think of any action that is on your mind that you need to do. And then you know that deep inside you have this question, how is it going to benefit me, or what am I going to get from it, right? Now replace that. Write down these questions. The first question, what can I contribute? And let us say it is something about your corporate life or professional life. Ask, what will help everybody around me? If you are a corporate person, what will help the whole team? Then ask, what will help build trust? I'm giving you some right questions to ask. There may be other right questions that you can note down for your own self. And then ask, what is the rightful action in this situation? The rightful word is very important. So now, introspect, reflect on it, pick any one decision that you are trying to make, and then ask these questions. The right answer will automatically start coming. Okay, so this was the first pillar. Any questions before we move to the second pillar? We can also have questions at the end, of course, but if there is any pressing questions, I'm happy to pause. Okay, so we can go to the second pillar. The second pillar is assuring pillar, which says that no step on this path is ever wasted. No spiritual progress, however small it is ever wasted. It's a very assuring statement, and it's the second pillar of this Buddhi Yoga Krishna is teaching. Because if you see, Arjuna is facing fear, but his fear is not fear of death. His fear is not, a fear of physical failure. His fear is that of spiritual failure. He doesn't know what is the right thing to do. He's like, am I going to incur sin? Am I going to, do something that I'm not supposed to do? So on and so forth. So Krishna says, Nehabhikramanasho sti pratyavayo na vidyate. Saying, on this path of awakened action, there is no loss of effort. There is no harmful consequence. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little practice of this protects you from great fear. So Krishna is saying, no sincere spiritual effort is ever wasted. Because any positive step that we take towards truth, it will leave a permanent mark on our mind. Do you remember the impressions we spoke about? Sanskaras? So they are going to create a positive impression, a positive sanskara. So it's a very revolutionary concept. It is not like material knowledge. Material knowledge, no, even if you are a PhD in this life, in the next life, you are again going to start from LKG, kindergarten. Even if you have a vision of your past life, you cannot say in my past life I was a PhD. It doesn't matter. We all start learning the alphabets in every life, correct? That is material knowledge. No matter how much you learn in this life, it's all gone. You may be a doctor, you may be a lawyer, you may be a artist, whoever, doesn't matter. In the next life, you are again starting from an ignorant, I know nothing, materially. But that's not true for spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, whatever progress you make in this life, It is yours. And it goes with you in the next life. Because spiritual knowledge is not just something that you put in the brain. Spiritual knowledge is something that impacts your level of consciousness. You see? I don't know if you have read it before, but it is written in our scriptures that there are 8.4 lakh levels of consciousness, or 8.4 lakh species of life. Out of that, 400,000 or 4 lakh are humans. In other words, in human life also, there are 400,000 or 4 lakh levels of consciousness. Starting from the lowest of low, it is called the Chandalas or the dog eaters. They say they are the lowest of low, and going all the way to the highest, which is the self-realized souls. In between, count it. too short of 4 lakh. It's in the middle. That's where we are all. So, if you don't understand this kind of Buddhi Yoga, if you don't understand the right way to act, if you don't understand discernment, samatvam, and all of this, what happens? It is a game of snake and ladder. You may be at some level of consciousness in this life. In the next life, there is no guarantee. You may go down. You don't know. And that is why it feels pointless. That is why it feels like, endless. Like birth after birth. You don't know because you are blindly playing the game of snake and ladder. Sometimes here, sometimes there. But Krishna says, when you do it consciously and if you practice all of this, your level of consciousness definitely goes up. So once your level of consciousness goes up, the next life will start at that level of consciousness. That way you can keep progressing on these 400,000 levels. Of course, Shankaracharya and others will say that even in one life, you can directly surpass all these levels and get liberation. That is what is called Jivana Mukta. In this life, you can get liberation. In one life itself. Possible. You don't have to die to get liberation. And Krishna, that is what Krishna is teaching, how to do that. The Amrit of liberation. That's what we are studying here. So, small things, like if you meditate for just 5 minutes every day, that is having an impact. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but there is an impact. It is impacting your level of consciousness. Because this is what Patanjali also calls. Patanjali calls it spiritual sanskara. So when you do these rightful actions, when you practice this kind of viveka, when you practice Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti and all of that, everything Krishna is teaching, we are generating positive sanskaras, which are spiritual sanskaras. That will stay with us and that will help us continuously grow. So the assurance here is that spiritual progress can never be destroyed. What happens? What can happen? It can get covered by worldly distractions and ignorance. See, just because today you are at a certain level, you feel that you are better than what you were yesterday. Hopefully. But that doesn't mean you're going to always feel that way. Because tomorrow you can fall into bad company. Tomorrow you can start doing tamasic things. You may start eating tamasic food, tamasic habits. It can happen. But the assurance given is the spiritual progress that you made until then, that is still not destroyed. It is only getting covered by those unwanted things. Then your effort is only to get rid of that ignorance, get rid of those coverings. It is like a smoke is covering a fire. You get rid of the smoke, the fire is still there. The fire is not going to get extinguished. So Krishna is giving us some kind of an assurance here. It's a very, very beautiful assurance. So let us all have more conviction in the spiritual knowledge, knowing that whatever progress we are making is going to stay with us forever. So Krishna here speaks about Bhayam, Mahato Bhayam. He's saying the great fear. What is that fear? The fear of samsara, the seemingly endless cycle of meaningless birth and death that creates a lot of fear. And he says, if you follow my teachings, he's promising Abhaya. Then we can overcome that fear. For that, do we have to stand on one leg for 1,000 years? No. Krishna says, one small act, one thought, one positive word, if we can, make a promise to ourselves that we are going to practice it every day, at least one small good act, one small good thought, one small good deed. But how? Without bargaining for results, without bargaining for rewards. If we can do, then we are practicing the right way to act, and that is creating a positive spiritual sanskara, and that is going to keep helping you evolve. Isn't it simple as well as profound? So let us all resolve, let's all make a resolve that we're going to do that. We're going to start small. We're going to have at least one act, one word, one thought, which is positive and selfless. The questions we just wrote down, you have to ask those questions for all of those. I'm making a donation. Good, it seems good, it seems awesome, but ask yourself, why am I doing that? Is it so that I can put a photo on Facebook and say, hey, see, I helped a poor person? And is that your motivation? Ask yourself the question, why am I doing it? Replace it with those questions. How can I actually contribute? How can I actually make a difference? So if you can do that, even a small act, and consistently keep doing it, you are growing. You will grow. So one question to pause and reflect. How many of you have started some spiritual practice in the past, but eventually discontinued because you thought you are not seeing results? If you're yeah, I see one hand raised. Good. So the others, either you are already practicing Buddhi yoga or you have never tried any spiritual practice. So so it's an introspection. It happens to a lot of us. It has happened to me too. That many times, like somebody says, "Why don't you wake up in the morning? Why don't you take bath? Why don't you do this meditation? Why don't you do kriya?" So many things. We tried for the first week is always the best week. I used to conduct some other meditation classes in the past, and the first week is the best. Everybody is full of Josh and Guruji, am I doing right? Guruji, this, but after a month it is like, I'm like, what happened? Then what happens is the enthusiasm gets replaced by excuses. Why? If you ask yourself, if somebody says there is a glass of Amrut there, and if you drink it, you are going to get immortality, will you make excuses or will you do whatever it takes to go get that glass of Amrut? If you are not going and getting the glass of Amrut, what does it mean? You just don't know the value. You don't understand the value. Because you don't understand the value, excuses comes in. And you are focusing only on rewards. You don't understand what rewards you are getting. You are just focused on the reward. Kuch nahi hua. The best joke, it's not a joke, it actually happened. It was a joke for me, is in one of my previous batches, one person got a little upset and they told me, Guruji, you keep saying, we should perform selfless action. So I have been practicing selfless action, but I'm not seeing any positive results. I'm like, my brother, if you can even, listen to your own question, you will see the irony in the question. If you are actually practicing selfless action, where is the room for, kuch nahi hua means what? What are you? That means you are expecting something, right? That is the problem. Any spiritual practice, anything we do, we expect some magic. We expect like suddenly something should happen. We should have a halo around our head or, it doesn't happen, then we get disheartened and we leave. But Krishna's message here is very important, very profound. Krishna says every small positive step is making an impact. You have to have faith and conviction in it and continue doing it. And one fine day, the results will automatically show for themselves. Very important. Third pillar, one-pointed focus. A focused mind versus a many-branched mind. So this is Sloka 2.41. So here Krishna uses a term, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. That is resolute and single-pointed mind. Single-pointed like a laser, he says. Vyavasaya, in this context, it talks about determination, clarity. So Lord Krishna is saying that should be the nature of your mind, one-pointed and focused. And the opposite of that is avyavasayinam. He says Opposite is people who don't have any conviction. They don't have any resolute determination. Their mind is fully scattered. So he's saying that if you want to grow, if you want to evolve, if you want to achieve your goals, it's extremely important that you learn to focus your mind. Now I'm going to again ask the same question. I want to see who understood the teaching so far. What is a prerequisite to focus your mind, to train your mind to get focused? Okay, I have some people here who seem to know the answer. Okay, who's that? Yes, Smitaji.
Pure mind.
Pure mind, excellent. Okay, pure mind is excellent. But you need to now purify your mind and you need to train your mind. So what you need even before that? Ekansh?
Samatvam, Guruji.
Hey, applause, applause. Yes. So that's what we said. The mind is like a wild horse. How can you train a horse? First, you have to make it calm, na? The horse has to first stand steady. Then you can start instructing on what it needs to do, where it needs to go, right? So, all Krishna is saying here is you need a one-pointed focus. You have to train your mind to be single-pointed. But to train your mind, first you have to calm your mind. The very important thing to keep in mind, it's a scientific fact. Scientific fact is that when the mind is scattered, energy leaks. This is not a religious principle. It is a very scientific, psychological principle. Like I don't know if it has happened to you, but it has happened to me in the past. And a lot of people have told this to me. Many times you have done nothing all day, but you still feel very tired. Has it not happened? Like, kiya kuch nahi, there is nothing to show. I have not done anything, but I am so exhausted by the end of the day. So what is going on is that chatter in your mind. That mind is scattered. The mind is not focused, one-pointed, but that is causing energy to leak. All those conflicting, contradicting thoughts, they are all cancelling each other, and pretty much it's no real outcome, and you are tired, you are exhausted, and you have not achieved anything. So this one-pointed focus is Krishna's remedy. He says, train your mind. Whenever your mind goes in 10 directions, pull it back. Pull it back to what? Pull it back to me, he says. So you need something which will never change. You need something which is always going to be good. Something which is always going to be right. He says, that is me. So if your mind is going, hey, what's going to happen to that exam I gave? Am I going to pass? Bring it back. Bring it back to Krishna, saying, Krishna, I did my best. I studied. I'll leave the results to you. When can you do that? First, you should have practiced Buddhi Yoga first. You should have practiced what is the right thing to do. And once you practice what is the right thing to do, it will become very easy to then leave everything to Krishna. And that way your mind remains one-pointed, your mind remains calm, and life becomes Jangalala. Very beautiful. What Krishna is teaching is very, very, methodical, scientific. And so a focused mind gathers power, whereas a scattered mind gathers only bondage and suffering. We create our own suffering all the time. So Adi Shankara makes it very clear. Adi Shankara says, only a person who has a steady intellect and a one-pointed mind, he says, only they can cross the ocean of Maya, Sansara. People who cannot do that, they are going to drown. There is no if. It is a fact. You're going to drown in that ocean of Sansara. See, the key thing to remember is the remedy is simple, but remedy is not easy. Nobody said it's going to be easy. But Krishna is saying it is simple. So pick one worthy aim. Then choose what is the rightful action. Then focus. Gather your horses, hold the reins, and say, that's where I need to go. And Krishna says, now if you do it with the right bhava, you will automatically say, I am that goal. And I will help you, he says. Very, very beautiful. See, another very important aspect, I don't know if we have any psychologists here in this group, but there is a very interesting fact about our mind-intellect system. The fact is that our intellect is the decision maker. And the mind is a very faithful follower. I'm not saying the mind is an effective follower. It is a faithful follower. It will at least think it is following. For example, it is the intellect that will tell the mind that money is what is most important in life. It will make a decision, uska kaam ho gaya. Then the intellect has done its job. Then the mind is what will make you chase money all your life. Very faithfully. It's a fact. That is why Krishna is saying Buddhi Yoga is so important. Take care of that intellect first, he says. Purify that. Clarify that. Once your intellect starts telling the right things, your mind will start following. You see? Very, very important. Because the intellect can control the mind. And you should let the intellect control the mind. Usually what we do, the other way around. We want our mind to control the intellect. Reverse gear. Reverse gear. Let me get that next good thing. Let me get that next boyfriend, next girlfriend. Let me get that next promotion. Let me get that next whatever. Then I will be peaceful. Then I will think of something right to do. Then I will think of God. Isn't it? That's the problem. So this is what Buddhi Yoga is all about. In the Bhagavad Gita, you will see that Buddhi Yoga, Jnana Yoga, they are very tightly related. They are intertwined. Again, Buddhi Yoga is pretty much the practical application of the knowledge, the how. So Jnana Yoga is more about the what. Buddhi Yoga is more about the how. And this is Krishna's philosophy. It is using the intellect not just to know, but to actually do what is right. Very important. So in the Katha Upanishad, when we're talking about all this focused mind, some of you may already know this story. So you can please see if you can find a copy of Katha Upanishad. It's a very simple Upanishad. It's not very dense. It's not complicated like most other Upanishads. So anybody can read a Katha Upanishad. And the Katha itself means story. So it's the Katha Upanishad. There is a story of Nachiketa. And so there is the sage, Vajashrava, and Nachiketa is his son. And so his father is giving a lot of gifts. See, there is a lot of meaning in this story. If you can listen with attention, you will see whatever we talked, a lot of it you will see in that story. So there his father was performing or giving a lot of charity. But why was he doing it? He was doing it because it was mentioned in a ritual. There is a particular ritual that says you are supposed to give some charity. So he was doing it. But when he was offering charity, what kind of charity was he doing? He was offering old, weak cows. The ritual says give cows as charity. So he was picking the oldest and weakest cows. Anyways, they are useless. And he was giving that as a charity. See, there the bhava was not right. He was just doing it as a ritual. His son Nachiketa is very young and he is observing all this. And he's observing this and he's asking his father a very innocent question. He's saying, Father, you are giving all the weak cows, weak and old cows, but he doesn't disrespect his father. He's actually curious. So he's asking him, if you have to give me, who will you give me to? And his father is kind of annoyed because, see, we all know, jab hum chori karte hain, when we do something wrong, we know that we are doing something not right. And when somebody tries to point it out, we get very annoyed, And so his father got annoyed and he says, I will give you to Yama. So Nachiketa is asking, if you have to give me to somebody, who will you give me to? His father is irritated. So he's saying, I will give you to Yama. But he's a young child. He takes it very seriously. No, Nachiketa is a very pure soul. So he actually figures out how to go to Yamlok. So he travels to Yamlok. And there, as you know, Yamlok has this scary security guards and watchmen. They are like, where do you think you are coming? And Nachiketa is like, I'm here to meet Yama. And so it's a long story where, the security guards are giving him a tough time. So Nachiketa is Nachiketa. So he's saying, it's okay, I will wait. So they make excuses. They say, Yama is very busy. He says, it's okay, I will wait for him. you know? And he's waiting for days without food, without water. And eventually Yama gets very touched. He says, yeah, who is this kid? This kid has so much of single-pointed focus. This kid has so much conviction, resilience. And that, impresses Yama. So Yama now becomes curious. He wants to know who is that child and what does that child want. So he comes out, he meets Nachiketa. And Yama says, I'm so pleased with your resilience. I mean, first of all, how did you even come here? That itself means, you are unique. And then you didn't get discouraged, you didn't get disheartened, and you didn't give up. And so many virtues I could already see. So he says, I'm pleased. I'm going to give you 3 boons. Ask me, what 3 boons would you like? So the first boon Nachiketa asks, he says, let my father be at peace and let him welcome me back with love when I go back. Yama says, Tatastu, granted. Easy, easy peasy. Second boon, teach me the sacred fire rituals that leads people to heaven. Yama says, okay, granted. Now the third and last one, Nachiketa is also very smart. So he is keeping the most difficult one for the last. So he says, what is the third boon you want? And Nachiketa says, I want to understand the science of the self and the science of death. Like what happens when somebody dies. No, Yama was not expecting that question from a child. And Yama doesn't want to give him that. For 2 reasons. First of all, Yama thinks it is proprietary knowledge. And second, he's not sure if a child can handle this kind of intense, profound knowledge. So what does Yama do? Yama does what anybody does when they want to avoid the truth. What do we do when we want to avoid the truth? Create distractions. Isn't it? Create distractions. A child will say, Mama, I want something. And we will say, no, Raja, I will give you chocolate. I will take you to the movie. But that's not what the child is asking you. But we will throw in distractions. And that's what Yama is doing. Yama tells Nachiketa, I will give you all this wealth. I will give you this. He even, says, I will give you heaven. You will have women and all of that. And of course, Nachiketa is a boy. He's like, what am I going to do with women? But Nachiketa is not deterred. One-pointed focus. His mind is single-pointed. It's not multi-branched. So Nachiketa says, thank you for all the offer, but can you please give me the boon you promised? I want to know. So finally, Yama realizes this kid is not going to give up and I have to keep my word. So then Yama goes and gives him that answer. He says, the self, you don't really die, Nachiketa. You never die. Your self is actually eternal. And he says the secret is that when you realize this truth, that is when you actually become free from death. He says that is how that's how it works. It's a very deep, profound truth. But what are the key learnings for us from this story? First, see clearly what is Shreya, what is Preya. Nachiketa did not settle for sweets and jewels and gold and diamond. He was very clear. That's all Preya, that's temporary, that's not what I want, right? We need to be very clear in our own lives. Second, don't lose focus. Don't lose focus on your goal. This is what happens to all of us. When we start with a lot of Josh and then we get distracted. We get pulled by all these distractions and don't do that. Be one-pointed. And always choose Shreya over Preya. Always. It may seem like not the right thing to do now. It may seem like it's not the smart thing to do, but in the long run, it will always be right. It will always be for your own higher good. And the fourth, patience. Shraddha and Saburi. That's what Nachiketa demonstrated. See, there is a very powerful statement made by many saints. They say that patience or Shraddha is not how long you wait. Some people will say, when they pray to a saint or when they pray to a god, they will say, I have been waiting for so long, can't you see? So, and they are questioning why that saburi is not paying off. So the lot of saints will say that it is not how long you wait that matters, it is how well you wait that matters. So when Nachiketa was waiting for a few days, he was not like cursing and he was not getting anxious and he was not getting angry. He was waiting calmly, patiently with faith that Yama will come when he is free. That is real Shraddha. That is real Saburi. And if we have to learn to practice that. How do you apply that? Again, before making any decision, pause. In that pause, ask yourself, is it Shreya or is it Preya? So as a practice, my request to you, this is entirely up to you, but make a resolve that at least for the next week, you will remove at least one pointless, low-value distraction from your life. Can you do that? Because we have so much gyan, but this is Buddhi Yoga, na? Buddhi Yoga is not just about knowing, it's about doing, na? So we have to do something. What we have to do? At least one low-value distraction, can we make a resolve that I'm going to give it up? For example, it may be a silly app like Candy Crush. Some people like to play that. It is a pointless game, but it takes so much of your energy. But, or it can be TikTok. Mindlessly sitting, slouching in the couch and going through TikToks or Facebook, endlessly scrolling, doom scrolling, So pick any of those one thing. I'm sure all of us have at least one or two of such annoying, low value, pointless distraction. Give it away and replace it with something Shreya. Something like, okay, let me use the time to go study one more verse of Bhagavad Gita, or let me go and read Katha Upanishad, or let me go listen to some Ram Katha. Something which is positive. If you can do that, I think this session would have had some purpose. This would have made some impact on you. But that you have to do. Nobody can force you to do that. And before you end the day, at night, you have to ask yourself, have I done anything right today? Have I used Buddhi Yoga for any of my actions today? If the answer is no, try again. You will feel good the day you can have the answer as, yes, I've done at least one or two things the right way according to Buddhi Yoga. And if you can repeat that every day, positive samskaras, spiritual samskaras are getting generated. And eventually that will become your inner nature. And once it becomes your inner nature, it is unstoppable. Then nobody can stop you from getting evolution and liberation. The fourth pillar, the final pillar we are going to talk today, is difficult for some of us, is avoiding the traps of flowery promises, sweet talks, flowery promises is everywhere. So from Sloka 2.42 to 2.44, Shri Krishna tells us, in the previous slokas he told us you should not have a scattered mind. And here he tells us one of the primary sources of a scattered mind. He says, what is causing your mind to get scattered? He says, one of the primary reasons is Pushpitam Vacham. That is the term Krishna uses. Pushpam is flower. So he is combining two interesting words. So flowery words. Vacham is words. So Pushpitam Vacham is flowery words. He says they kind of promise you the world. They promise you many things. And we get attached to that. And that causes our mind to get scattered. And such people are called as Kama Atmanah, filled with desire for fleeting material rewards. See, you need a culprit, you need a victim also. Then the game of crime goes, right? There cannot be a crime if either the culprit or the victim is missing. Both have to be there. And we are calling the culprit is flowery words. Then who is the victim? Victim is Kama Atmanah. These are people who are having desires for temporary pleasures. They will fall victim to that kind of flowery words and sweet talk and all of that. So many times people come and say, I trusted this guy, man, and he dished me, or he kind of betrayed me. And what aspect of that person did you trust actually? No, it was a sweet talk. It was a flowery, you know, he was promising me so many things. But then why did you believe in that? Because there was a desire in you. You wanted some sensory fulfillment. You wanted some temporary pleasures. And that flowery speech, that flowery things, the flowery words, sweet words he was saying, that appealed to you. Right? So both victim and culprit, they both have to be there. And Krishna is talking about both here. So we don't have to control we cannot and we should not try to control the culprits, but we can control our buddhi to make sure we don't become a victim. And that is what Krishna is saying here. Don't be a victim to those flowery words and flowery speeches. And this is where this sloka is sometimes misunderstood. So Krishna will say that Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, it's like performing elaborate rituals only to secure pleasures, bhoga and aishwarya. So the actual translation of the verse will say that those who delight in the flowery promises of the Vedas, worshipping heaven and ritual, they forget the deeper meaning and their mind gets lost in enjoyment and luxury. Buddha said something similar, but this gets interpreted as somehow Vedas are bad. That is not what Krishna ever said. So Krishna has never said, a lot of people ask this question. They say, oh, Krishna himself has said that the Vedas are... No, Krishna never said the Vedas are wrong or bad. All Krishna said is there is a part of the Vedas which is focused on rituals. Karma khanda, we call it. Krishna says we shouldn't get attached to that in the wrong way. We shouldn't run behind those rituals for material pleasures. Because material pleasures are always going to be temporary. No matter if you can, whatever you get, it's going to be temporary. It's not going to be permanent. It's going to be a cause of pain and cause of confusion and all of that. And he says, if you do that, if you are running behind those rituals, ritualistic aspects for temporary gains, material gains, then your mind will always be scattered. And when your mind is scattered, you will never be able to realize or focus on the truth. And he says, for such people, peace will always be out of reach. That is his real message. So again, the combined word pushpitam vacham is kind of very rich and beautiful. So whenever you hear something that seems very too good to be true, ask yourself, am I being a victim? See, in today's world, the entire advertising industry is based on this. You're already doing something, you're already trying to, your elders, they are giving you good advice. They are saying if you get up in the morning, if you do pranayama, you will feel energetic, but then there will be an advertisement. Boost is the secret of my energy. And suddenly you are like, oh, all I have to do is go get 2 spoons of boost, and why am I spending so much time on pranayama, holding my nose and all of that, right? So that is a flowery word, flowery promise, and you run behind it. And what happens? You'll end up with not energy, you'll end up with just tiredness, you'll end up with disappointment. Look around you, everywhere, banners, posters. Is that not what is happening? People will promise you the world, they'll promise you the heaven. But you have to ask yourself, why am I getting attracted to that? It is because I'm giving into my own weakness. Because somewhere I'm seeking easy gains. Somewhere I'm seeking quick material pleasures. Focus on that problem, automatically you will become immune to those flowery, pointless promises, and you can stay focused on your goal and focused on what is the right thing to do. The great teaching here is the ritual itself is not bad. There is nothing wrong. So 2 people can be performing the same act. Externally, it will look like they are doing the same thing. But internally, one is doing it from a position of calmness and viveka and buddhi yoga. The other person is doing it in a very selfish mindset. The outcomes will be vastly different. Their life experience will be vastly different. So again, Krishna is not saying something is wrong with the rituals or something is wrong with the Vedas. Krishna is talking about how we approach them. And that is the lesson for all of us. So next time you think that, yeah, I think I will be happy when I get that promotion, ask yourself, ask the right questions. Next time you think, no, I think I've told this in one of the sessions. For me, my most interesting interaction was with one prospective student. I've heard many excuses, and this was the most unique one. But they said that, this life I'm going to enjoy. In my next life, I will be spiritual. And I was like astounded. I was like, wow, you are already a elevated soul. Like you know you're going to get a next birth. You know your next birth is going to be human. And you also know that you are going to be spiritual in your next birth, Wow. Like what can I say? So don't get into those traps. Don't have this thing, when I become 60 years old, then I will do spirituality, or when I get a house, then I will sit and meditate. That's the reverse gear gadi, the wrong way of doing things. Do what needs to be done now, and have the faith that the rest of your life or the next life will be for the best, and it will happen the right way. So as a concluding few words, I will just say that if you have paid attention, you will see that Krishna has provided a very beautiful integration of, Buddhi Yoga. And there is a question that a lot of people ask all the time, like, am I supposed to just abandon the world? Am I supposed to give up my life to, be spiritual? Like some people will even say, how can you expect me to be spiritual? I have a business, I have a family, I have this, I have that. Nobody says that you need to leave everything and go run to a cave or run to a mountain. Krishna is integrating all of this. Krishna is saying, you can be in the world. Krishna wants us to be successful. He's saying, be in the world, succeed in the world, and still evolve. He's saying, if you have the right mindset, the worldly duties, instead of becoming impediments, instead of becoming distractions, they will become the stepping stones for you. And they will themselves become what help you grow. Isn't it beautiful? This is a very, very nice integration. Like I was talking about it in the Bhakti Sutra session I had earlier. Swami Vivekananda, he talks about, he gives this example in one of his lectures. He says that there was this wonderful man who wanted to practice Vairagya. He wanted to practice detachment. So he gives up his house, he gives up his business, he gives up his family. He even gives up his clothes. He only wears a langot and he goes to the forest. And he makes up his mind that he's only going to beg for food, bhiksha. And so the only possession he has is a begging bowl and a walking stick, nothing else, and a langot. He has given up everything else. Isn't it a great Vairagi? We will say he is such a big Vairagi. But Vivekananda laughs and says, but the problem is he gets attached to the begging bowl and the walking stick. You see the problem. The problem is not externally giving up things. That doesn't make you a Vairagi. The real Vairagi was somebody like Raja Janak. Raja Janak had a palace. He had riches. He had queens. He had everything. But his mindset was of a complete Vairagi. For him, even if a palace catches fire, he is least impacted. So that we can all be. So we don't have to leave anything. We don't have to run to a cave. We don't have to run to a mountain. Be in our homes. Do your business. Do your jobs. Take care of your families. Do everything you have to do. Just do it in the right way with the right mindset, and that itself will help us become spiritual and get freedom and liberation. Is the powerful message. And for Buddhi Yoga, Krishna says, when your Buddhi awakens, then rightful action will automatically flow. You don't have to force rightful actions. Eventually, it will just become your inner nature. And once that becomes your inner nature, you are all set. That's the whole message. Hare Krishna. Thank you. I hope all this made sense. With that, this was very profound, a lot of technical. That's why I didn't take breaks. I wanted to have a flow. So I finished my talks and now I will stop talking. I think I've done too much talking now. I will open the floors. If you had any questions or comments, please feel free. All set? Everything clear? Okay then, if everything is clear, and I hope this makes sense, and I hope you are able to utilize it in your lives. So we can conclude today's session then. Hare Krishna. See you all in the next session. See you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare. Blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the week, and see you all in the next session.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Guruji.